Hey, what's up guys? It is Dibes, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to the Painted Lines YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel, make sure you like, make sure you comment, and smash that subscribe button. Today is our first edition of Sixers Foes. Yes, we are breaking down the Brooklyn Nets this season. Before we get started, let's take care of business. My man Tiago on Twitter at tscabia wrote an in-depth breakdown on the Brooklyn Nets. Go check it out at thepaintedlines.com. Let's do this. The Brooklyn Nets enter 2021 under a new set of expectations. For the first time in years, pieces are now in place for a championship run. A big part of Brooklyn's hope hinges on Kevin Durant's health. The two-time NBA Finals MVP is now 18 months removed from a significant Achilles tendon injury. But with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the belief now is that star power can lift the Nets into title contention. Let's review what has changed and how the Brooklyn Nets can make significant noise this season. First up, a new coaching culture and roster changes. The big splash this offseason involved the hiring of new head coach Steve Nash. The transition from the Kenny Atkinson years should be an interesting one. Steve Nash and assistant Mike D'Antoni were the architects of Phoenix's revolutionary 7 seconds or less offense. How or if they plan to implement this aggressively coaching philosophy will be a key point to look for in 2021. Over his 3 seasons in Golden State, the Warriors shifted from an up and down group to the league's 10th ranked pace. Both Durant and Irving love to dictate the beat of the offense. That clash in coaching against playing style should not be overlooked. At the same time, Brooklyn spent the offseason hunting for friendly faces to surround its 2 stars. Here is a look at the reshaping. Who is in, who is out? Steve Nash must strike a balance between past roster contributors and an influx of new faces. This is now the Durant and Irving show. How well Steve Nash navigates this dynamic will go a long way in determining Brooklyn's fate this season. Before we go forward, let's take a step back. What went wrong with the Brooklyn Nets in 2019-2020? Coming off a surprise playoff run, many expected the Brooklyn Nets to leap in the standings last year. But with Kyrie Irving's injury, most of the scoring burden fell back to Spencer Dinwiddie and Caris LeVert. While the duo had enjoyed previous success, things slowly crumbled offensively. A big contributor to the downfall was the Nets' heavy isolation culture. Brooklyn was one of the 4 teams to record at least 620 isolation possessions, but the results were underwhelming. Let's take a look at the numbers. Neither player was able to duplicate their offensive outbursts from prior seasons. With the significant uptick in usage, Dinwiddie's true shooting percentage crumbled to a subpar 54%. On the flip side, Caris LeVert's 0.78 points per isolation possessions placed him in the 31st percentile among all NBA players. The result was an offense built for 2-star players without 2-star talents. The introduction of Kevin Durant changes the math for Brooklyn. Steve Nash is equipped to deploy a similar concept built around one of the game's most dominant isolation weapons at his disposal. Let's put the spotlight on Kevin Durant's playmaking. With Kevin Durant back in the mix, Brooklyn is now set up to inflict significant offensive damage. The 6'10" ball-handling forward will immediately become the Nets' primary scoring option. Kevin Durant uses his massive 7'5" wingspan to dominate matchups in isolation. Just 2 seasons ago, he placed among some of the most dominant isolation scorers in the game. Let's look at the chart. Inserting this type of production into Brooklyn's offense is a significant step forward. Steve Nash now has an iconic reference point to close games out. But Kevin Durant is not just a scorer. His ability to create off the dribble suits his new teammates well. This offseason, Brooklyn spent money and assets on a plethora of shooting options. 2 names draw particular attention. Durant is surrounded by a pair of elite spot-up shooters in Joe Harris and Landry Shamet. Last season, both players combined for an impressive 41% on 555 catch-and-shoot attempts. In other words, proceed with extreme caution when trying to double-team Kevin Durant, as he now has several passing outlets at his disposal. It is this dynamic that also opens up many lineup options. In Golden State, Durant was deployed as a center 10% of the time. A similar role under Steve Nash enables Brooklyn to inject significant offense on the wings. This roster is loaded with scoring depth, but it is going to take Dinwiddie and LeVert time to accept complementary roles. Doing so turns Brooklyn into one of the most devastating offensive groups. Naturally, the next discussion point is Kyrie Irving and his role and partnership with Kevin Durant. On the flip side of Brooklyn's offensive arsenal is one of the league's most devastating pick-and-roll architects. Kyrie Irving is a ball-handling maestro, capable of splitting traps and attacking the basket at the blink of an eye. In Irving and Dinwiddie, Brooklyn now has a pair of electric pick-and-roll scorers. 2 seasons ago, the duo ranked near the very top of that category. Let's look at the numbers. The lob presence of DeAndre Jordan and Jarrett Allen should only benefit both guards, but it is Kyrie's role that opens up a new set of opportunities. Back in Boston, head coach Brad Stevens played into Kyrie's attention in many creative ways, one that included utilizing Marcus Smart as the screener. Deploying Kevin Durant in the same Marcus Smart role puts defenses in a significant bind. Kevin Durant is nearly automatic from mid-range, and trapping Kyrie Irving only enables an open look for the Nets star. Conversely, leaving Kyrie isolated is also problematic, as he can easily collapse the defense and create chaos off the drive. It is the on-court ethos between Durant and Irving that places the Nets at the top of the conversation in the East. How the duo develops the necessary chemistry will dictate Brooklyn's story this season. We talked about the offensive firepower, but let's talk about the defensive shortcomings. While Brooklyn is set up for a top 5 offense this year, the same cannot be said for the defensive end. The influx of shooters puts Steve Nash in a very vulnerable position. Lineups that include Harris and Shamet leave a crater on the perimeter. In Jordan and Allen, Brooklyn is well set up to eliminate shots near the rim. Last season, the Brooklyn Nets allowed only 31% of their shots within 6 feet of the basket, good for second lowest among all NBA teams. But this hardly tells the story, as teams can now dictate matchups when both defensively deficient players hit the court. It will be worth monitoring what General Manager Sean Marks has up his sleeve. Brooklyn's time is now, and that creates an environment of action. If the defense takes a substantial hit, does Marks dangle Jarrett Allen or Spencer Dinwiddie for immediate relief? Names such as Thaddeus Young, PJ Tucker, and Trevor Ariza could provide the ideal defensive medicine. Regardless of when or if that time comes, look for teams to target Brooklyn's weakness on the perimeter, thus inserting a monkey wrench in Steve Nash's offensive alternatives. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets season projection. A team with 2 probable Hall of Fame talents should find very little resistance on its way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Brooklyn is well equipped in a conference full of good but not great teams. The questions circulating the team are very clear. Is Kevin Durant healthy? Will the partnership with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving work? A simple yes to either question puts Brooklyn ahead of the pack, but to clear the hurdle into the NBA Finals may require a few roster tweaks. At the same time, a season in which Kevin Durant struggles to find his footing could be catastrophic, thus opening the door in a tightly competitive Eastern Conference. What do you think of the Brooklyn Nets? How do you see Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving meshing? Are the Brooklyn Nets heading to the Eastern Conference Finals? Please let us know in the comment section below. Please smash that like button, smash that subscribe. Thank you everybody here for watching, and please make sure to follow my man Tiago on Twitter at tscabia. He wrote an in-depth breakdown on the Brooklyn Nets over at thepaintedlines.com. This is Dibes, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Stay awesome.